going on, guys? Footzeez here. Today we'll be covering the upcoming patch to see what types of changes we'll be dealing with in our first major balance patch. So, without any further ado, let's hop in. Alright guys, and before we get started, I just want to ask one quick favor and hit that like and subscribe button for me. Just do me that favor and everything will be good. But alright, hopping into it. Starting on August 4th, which is tomorrow, 12 a.m. PDT and 7 UTC time. You can translate that into whatever time that is for you, but that is exactly when the patch will drop. So all you have to do to apply the update is restart the app on your device and it'll apply it automatically. All right, hopping into the update details. We're just gonna go from top to bottom and we'll just knock everything out. Bug fixes, text fixes, spectate feature test release. This is a major one right here. Why personally I think why this is major is because this is going to open up the gateway for more tournaments and esports related activities for Pokemon Unite, because it's have an actual spectate feature for people to have all these different overlays and whatever that you want to actually have a legit event, instead of just having one player's particular view and having to have multiple capture cards, say for instance, or like these major scale events or whatever that has those type of funds. But this will allow smaller end communities to actually hold their tournaments and actually have like spectators and actually just have these streams going. So this is major in my opinion, having this spectate feature. And hopefully on down the line, once this is, because keep in mind this is just a test, and it's saying right here that the spectate feature will be performed from August 4th to August 6th. So it's just a test window to allow you to be able to test spectating other people's matches or customs, however they're going to do it. We'll find out when it actually drops. But hopefully once this finalizes and pushes through, then possibly we'll just have an entire replay system eventually as well. So you can go back and kind of review your replays just in case you don't have a capture card or something like this. You can have replays so you can go back and kind of sit down with your team or just sit down with yourself and figure out what you could have done better, what you could do here, blah, 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 things like that, just to kind of analyze your gameplay and go based off of that. But those are the key points that the update is going to hit, but breaking down more into the specifics of Pokemon changes. Starting from the top, we have Charizard. Charizard's first change is relating to Flamethrower. Flamethrower has its cooldown reduced and effects on opposing Pokemon strengthened. So overall, this is a major buff. And the way it's looking so far, Charizard overall just has nothing but buffs, which is a good thing, because personally, I felt like Charizard was underwhelming, especially at higher levels of rank play at least. Casual is not as much. If you just kind of casually play this game, you won't typically know it. But personally, I felt like there were better picks for Charizard. Charizard just had a slow early game, ramping up to later game where he got outscaled by other attackers or all-arounders, which I personally felt like was just a better pick over Charizard. Not saying he's just outright don't pick him at all. Like, if you love Charizard, play Charizard. There's nothing wrong with him, because he can still what's the key term that I'm looking for? He can synergize really well with a good team, but it's just being able to plot it out with your team to determine what all that you need. So honestly, these are well-deserved buffs, definitely for Flamethrower, definitely having that lower cooldown and the effects of on opposing Pokemon strength. I'm assuming that's the burn. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll touch back with that. But moving on to this next move, Fire Punch also has the effects on opposing Pokemon strengthened. So Fire Punch got buffed. That's already two moves for Charizard buffed right off the bat. And lastly, Fire Blast has a cooldown reduction as well, so you can get more Fire Blast out quickly. So definitely having a shorter cooldown on Fire Blast is really relevant. Right off the bat, I'm not sure what the exact cooldown on Charizard's Fire Blast is initially. I have to pull it up, but it just knowing now that it's actually a reduced cooldown, and not just specifically on Fire Blast, but on Flamethrower as well. So having those reduced cooldowns does make him a lot more viable, because you can put out more damage in a shorter period of time. So that's actually good. So overall, looking at the patch notes, Charizard is definitely getting buffed. Moving on to Talonflame. Acrobatics. Damage dealt to opposing Pokemon increased. So Acrobatics has been buffed, which is scary in my opinion. Like, from my experience with Talonflame, I personally didn't feel like he was underwhelming to a certain degree. He was, like, you would still have other speedsters be picked over him, such as Absol or Gengar, or even Greninja, in my opinion, was better than Talonflame. I personally felt like Talonflame was a little underwhelming. He could still get out of hand early game, but I feel like he fell off later as everybody started scaling. But personally, Talonflame's like starting from Fletchinder or Fletchling. The early stages of Talonflame is really strong in my opinion. But later on, I just personally feel like his presence falls off. But knowing that Acrobatics did get buffed, that's a plus in my book. Aerial Ace. Damage dealt to opposing Pokemon increased as well. So Aerial Ace got buffed along with the plus version of it, which is just the upgraded version of Aerial Ace. So it's looking like all of Talonflame's moves so far is just increased, damage increase. So he's gonna be able to be more prominent, hopefully in the later stages of the game, because like I said, personally, I felt like he was already a menace early game, but later on I felt like he fell off. But knowing the damage increase on Acrobatics and Aerial Ace, and moving on to Fly also has a damage increase. So knowing that, that's gonna be pretty nasty in my opinion. So that's good that Talonflame is finally getting some damage buffs, and I personally feel like he needed them. Alright, so moving down to Venusaur. This has been a topic for me, and I personally feel like Venusaur is the weakest Pokemon right now in Pokemon Unite. I feel like he's very underwhelming. A lot of his moves just seem like they don't do anything. Like, I sat down and played with him not too long ago, and I could get some stuff going, but I feel like he's not there. He falls off really early in my opinion. His damage is not there. With him being an attacker, it seems like his damage is just non-existent. Definitely his Unite. And so immediately looking, I think they may have tried to correct some of Venusaur's issues. So let's quickly go over and see what's going on. So Sludge Bomb. Damage dealt to opposing Pokemon increased. So good. So Sludge Bomb has been increased in damage, as well as its effects has been strengthened. So the dot damage on Sludge Bomb is going to be, hopefully it's going to be disgusting. So because personally I want to see Venusaur played a lot more than what he is right now, because you rarely see him, definitely at higher levels, and you just don't see him at all. So Petal Dance, it says move upgrade. I'm not entirely sure what they mean by Petal Dance being upgraded. Did they just, I don't know. We will have to touch back with that once we finalize everything, but right now it's just saying Petal Dance is a move upgrade. So I don't know if they switched around the order in which his moves are upgraded now, or what's the deal with that. But we'll touch back with that eventually when we figure out concrete what exactly is going on with that. Solar Beam has a cooldown reduction, which is major in my opinion. Like, having Solar Beam as a long cooldown, which is really his core damage in my opinion. It's like a Lux's ult, where it's just a straight beam that just does a chunk of damage. Having that as a quicker cooldown makes Venusaur more of a threat, because he can just fire it more often than he could before. So that in my book, that's a plus. And lastly, for Venusaur, his Unite move, Verdant Anger. Damage dealt has been increased. So once again, thank you. They increased his damage, which hopefully it's increased a lot, because personally I feel like you were just hitting people with wet noodles and it just wasn't doing any damage. So hopefully his Unite actually does some sort of damage. So moving on to Absol. So Absol got a little bit of changes. Personally, I don't feel like he needed any changes. I felt like he was in a fairly good spot, and he was, in my opinion, probably the best speedster right now outside of Gengar. It's kind of a tie in my book, but besides the fact, Absol's basic attack had some bug fixes, which is a good thing. He not too sure what was specifically going on with his basic attack, but it's good that they're just ironing out the small little errors that's going on with some of these Pokemon. So that's always good to know. Night Slash's damage has been increased. In my opinion, that is scary, because I felt like Absol was already in a good place, but now they're just kind of throwing him overboard. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to go on with him. But also, Sucker Punch received increased damage. So only 2 of his moves got buffed, and honestly, we're just going to have to wait and see what's going to go on with Absol. But I personally feel like we'll see a lot more of Absol than we will Gengar now. And we'll get to Gengar a little later. Wigglytuff. This is a big one in my book. Me being a support main, this is big in my book. So, dealing with Wigglytuff, the following stats have been increased. Defense, special defense, and HP for Wigglytuff. They are making Wigglytuff more of a tank, more of a supportive tank threat, which personally I felt like Wigglytuff was already being slept on, and now that they're actually buffing Wigglytuff, we're definitely going to see more Wigglytuff. Definitely going to see more Wigglytuff. And so having those stat boosts, she's going to be more of a bully. So she's just going to run you down and just be in your face and just be tanky, so she can sustain these hits for her team and just be that supportive threat that I'm assuming she was supposed to be. So moving on, Double Slap. The damage has been increased for Double Slap, as long as the effects have been strengthened for Double Slap. This is scary. Straight up. This is scary. That being said, because personally I felt like Double Slap was already strong. Earlier in the game cycle, back in the Japanese beta when we played Wigglytuff. We laned with Wigglytuff, me and my brother, and we did it when the game first launched. Wigglytuff personally has been a sleeper pick in my book. She just does absolutely too much damage to be a support. Even though, like, if you look at the stats corresponding to Wigglytuff, it says a 1-star offense or half a star. I can't remember exactly what it was, but that's personally a lie, because Wigglytuff just does absolutely too much damage for no reason. But besides the fact, moving on, Sing has had its effect strengthened, so we'll probably see more people opting to use Sing in certain situations. Dazzling Gleam also had some bug fixes. So overall, Wigglytuff got some major buffs in my opinion. So having those stat boosts and then having the buffs to Double Slap and Sing, like we're definitely going to see more Wigglytuff. And keeping on the subject of supports, Eldegoss. This is a big one in my book. I have been Eldegoss main. Eldegoss, just a support main in general. But this one is kind of big in my opinion. Starting out, Cotton Guard has had its cooldown lengthened. This is a nerf. They are increasing the cooldown on Cotton Guard, and they're also decreasing the amount of HP restoration. So they are trying to stop Eldegoss from being the unkillable support and making your all-arounders and attackers and tanks unkillable as well, because they're slowing down how much you can heal, how quickly you can abuse this move, things like that. So they're trying to tone down Eldegoss. Granted, Eldegoss is technically one of the only supports in the game that can do major healing in his class, so hitting them with an early nerf like this is definitely, in my opinion, going to switch up the meta, because you don't have to rely on having a healer. So you can flex to either Mr. Mime or Wigglytuff if you choose to have a support on your team. But now we may start seeing more of a meta shift outside of just having support on your team in general. Maybe we'll see double tanks, or who knows. So this nerf just in general for the Cotton Guard is already showing that this is going to flip things around, in my opinion. Moving on to Cotton Spore. Cotton Spore also has, it had its cooldown reduced. So they're trying to allow people to opt to use Cotton Spore instead of Cotton Guard. Because if you continue reading on, the effects of the Pokemon move has been strengthened. As well as this move, the special defense has been increased. So they are definitely trying to allow people more the opportunity to opt more towards Cotton Spore, which is a good thing. I personally started experimenting with Cotton Spore not too long ago, so having this be more of an option now, definitely that's a plus in my opinion. And finally, Eldegoss' Unite. They have decreased the HP restoration that you get back from Cotton Cloud Crash. So definitely them knocking the HP restoration from Eldegoss down a tone, like a little bit, is gonna affect how you build around your team now. So being able to flex to more supports is definitely a plus in my opinion. So moving on to Cinderace. Oh boy. They have decreased the stats. The following stats. Attack on Cinderace has been decreased. They have nerfed Cinderace attack damage. This is, in my opinion, this is a good nerf, because he was absolutely doing a lot of damage. Definitely when he gets to the point where he can kite you and start doing his feint and all this other stuff, it's just he starts getting out of hand. So decreasing his amount of damage, it's a good nerf in my opinion. Blaze Kick. Damage dealt to opposing Pokemon has been decreased. So once again, they are nerfing his damage on his moves. Feint, move downgrade. Once again, relating to the move upgrade thing. I'm not entirely sure what they mean by that, so we'll have to check back with that later. Pyro Ball, damage dealt to opposing Pokemon increase. So they're trying to buff. The way this patch is looking so far is that they're trying to buff the lesser used moves in the meta, and they're nerfing the higher end moves to kind of bring out diversity, to kind of swap the meta up a little bit. So I totally respect these. Ooh, Gengar. All right. Gengar had some bug fixes on his basic attack, which was needed. Like I said earlier, it's always good to have bug fixes. Shadow Ball. Damage dealt to opposing Pokemon increased. So definitely people, they won't, like I said earlier, they want people to use more of the underutilized moves, and they're going to nerf the heavier used moves that people are just running rampant with right now. So having a Shadow Ball buff, I understand that. Hex, move downgrade. Once again, I'm assuming that's a nerf, because everybody knows Sludge Bomb, the Hex combo that Gengar always does, is running rampant. Like lower tiers, people are complaining about it, blah blah blah. He just does absolutely too much damage with this combo. So totally understand specifically what this means. And Dream Eater is move upgrade. So from my understanding, I'll have to dig more into it, but I want to say the upgrade downgrade is possibly switching the positions in which you get the move, I'm assuming, instead of entirely nerfing the move outright. They just switch the order in which you can get them, so later in the game you won't have the ability to get Hex or vice versa. We'll find out when the patch drops. So moving on to Zeraora. His Spark had some bug fixes, which is always good. Wild Charge. Damage dealt has been increased, as well as cooldown has been reduced. So once again, trying to get the lesser used moves being used. And his Unite move, Plasma Gale, has had his damage decreased, because his Unite was actually doing a lot of damage. Like people are up in the air about Zeraora, so having this kind of tone him down a little bit kind of levels him out. So I respect it. Cramorant, Whirlpool, damage dealt has been decreased. I respect it. Whirlpool, his very, like, Whirlpool, he clears things really fast with Whirlpool. I personally didn't feel like it was doing a lot of damage to opposing Pokemon, so I don't know. I personally don't feel like this nerf was needed, but we'll see how it pans out. Dive, damage dealt increase. I honestly thank them for this, because Dive just, outside of dive just being a movement mechanic that you can use to kind of reposition yourself in fights and things like this, I personally felt like it didn't do as much damage as it should if you wanted to use it to get on top of someone. Like outside of just diving under and getting your basic attack proc, then I don't think it was very useful. But hopefully this damage increase makes it somewhat viable now. Moving on to Machamp. Machamp's basic attack has some bug fixes. Cross chop, damage dealt has been decreased. Thank you. Even though I personally feel like moves, well, no, I personally feel like this is reasonable. So having that decreased kind of makes Machamp a little less scarier. But even though you will still be getting submission back into their team and still dying, but that's besides the fact. At least they're toning them down a little bit, because Machamp has been running rampant as the best all-arounder, in my opinion. Like, if you're going to pick an all-arounder to fit a team comp, Machamp fits every check. Like, he checks every box. And there's no reason for you to pick anyone else besides the fact of you just really enjoying one particular Pokemon and you just want to explore, which is understandable. But moving on to close combat. Close combat has had its damage increase. So touching back one more time on the fact that you have these lesser moves just being buffed and the stronger moves being nerfed to kind of come hand in hand, so you can have a variety of what you choose to build and the direction you want to play the game. So totally understandable nerfs and buffs. And moving on to Lucario. So we only have 3 remaining: Lucario, Greninja, Ninetales. And from the looks of it, all of them just have simple bug fixes. So just to quickly cover it, Lucario's Power-Up Punch just has bug fixes. Bone Rush, bug fixes. Greninja's basic attack has bug fixes, and Alolan Ninetales Snow Warning passive has bug fixes. So looking at the patch overall, my initial thoughts so far before we get our hands on it tomorrow is that a lot of it is just trying to bring a lot of the lower end moves up to par to be able to have a variety of kits being played, to have more diversity and allow the games to change up a little bit, and definitely knocking the meta on the support end. So we're definitely going to see the variety of having Mimes and Wigglytuffs be more prominent in teams, as well as just having a different support kit on Eldegoss, more of a CC oriented instead of just straight heals. Like, of course we'll still see the heals, but not as much anymore. People are finally going to start exploring the other styles of Eldegoss and just experimenting with their builds a little bit. And that's honestly what this patch is doing, is just shaking up a lot of the things and just getting you to be more familiar with all the rest of your moves that you have in the kit, and being able to build your Pokemon more around those and kind of flip it and switch it up. Just kind of have fun a little bit. So overall, I personally like this patch. I'm gonna be hopping into it tomorrow, definitely as soon as possible. But that's looking like it's gonna be it for tomorrow. So definitely, everybody, when you get the chance, check this patch out. Tell me what you think. Drop a comment down the comment section down below. Leave me a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Y'all take it easy.